We don't want to disturb your beach time, so here's a simpler run back to listen to while you just hang back and relax during the Team Crossbody Spring Break 2024. Oh yeah, girl. Alright. With fighting games being the biggest they ever been nowadays, developers are digging more and more into trying to simplify their games for the sake of casuals, for better or worse. Although this fad is more prevalent today, some attempts were made to make games simple as far back as the 90s, as well as the game we're covering today might be the best example of this. This is Team Crossbody, and this is Evil Zone's Runback. Evil Zone is a 3D fighter shockingly developed by Yuke's in 1999 exclusively for the Sony PlayStation, and the story centers around an evil sorceress named Ihadoka who once tried to take over the world and was sealed into a realm called the Evil Zone temporarily. A tournament is held across multiple dimensions in order to decide who is the strongest fighter, with the champion being tasked to enter the Evil Zone and defeat Ihadoka before she's able to escape the zone and threaten the world once again. Evil Zone's story presents each character's narrative as if they're the main character of their own anime series, with each stage being introduced with a next time segment and sporting their own little title and splash screens. I think it's hype and charming. So charming that it's kinda easy to get sucked into it and look past the things like the terrible voice acting, dialogue, and how they gobble a mic when they're trying to explain the next episode.
Hello, this is Setsuna. This is what we begin to realize about Ihaduka. Ihaduka wants Karen. Whatever the reason Ihaduka has, I don't like it and don't want to part with Karen. I've become selfish since I met Karen.
Me too. I don't want to be without you, Setsuna. Even if Ihaduka wants another. Ah yes. Setsuna, I want to be with you too.
I want to be powerful. I want the power to protect what's important to me. Karen, I want the power to protect you. Coming up next is Guardian Angel Setsuna, Act 4, Reflection in Your Eyes. Karen, I want to focus on the present, not on the past.
And for how strange these cutscenes are, we like to think that a reasonable amount of effort went into some of them, and we recommend checking these things out if anything. We happen to like the game graphics quite a bit. They are admittedly simple, but seeing how they're supposed to mirror 90s anime, we feel that it's perfectly acceptable. Hell, if the game would have come out like mid-2000 and tightened up the look a bit more, it could pass for an early PS2 game. We also like the character designs, from a schoolgirl swordsman hosting the spirit, a common writer, an edge boy swordsman to the prerequisite ladyboy. They can all pull off the role of protagonist pretty well. We don't know what the general consensus of Evil Zone's gameplay. As we already stated, the game is very simple, only sporting two buttons, one for attack and the other for defense. But within those two buttons, there's still a good amount of complexity and decision making involved. The closest comparison we can make to Evil Zone's controls might be the Super Smash Bros. Games, which was released around this time, so it had to be intentional. Although they both released the same time of year, with Evil Zone coming out a week after Smash in Japan, so it might be more of a coincidence. Because the game only uses two buttons, characters are generally built the exact same way, with universal movement, move applications, and frame data feeling shared amongst the cast. Not to say there isn't any differences here, but they're far and few between. So characters have two states depending on distance, far and close. When at a distance, characters have a basic 3-hit weak fireball, which turns into a 3-hit melee combo when close enough, and 3 special moves that usually consist of forward special that typically stuns the opponent, which in some cases causes a knockdown, back specials, some kind of projectile that's covering sidestepping, these can be charged in some cases, up specials consist of either a rush attack or some kind of additional projectile, and a finisher that can be done by pressing back twice, and the attack button that requires built super stocks that can be charged by holding triangle, in which you can store up to 3. Oh, there's also dashing attacks while running. Each character also has multiple throws that the game calls captures, which changes depending on your distance from the opponent, much like basic attacks. They also have some evasive abilities, a leaping flip and a large sidestep when up close as well, and these actions are important for attempting to open up an opponent. Guarding can also be performed by holding the square button, with timing the button to the opponent's attack, making it a parry that leaves them open. Captures can be broken by hitting the guard button as soon as the animation starts, and if both players perform a dashing attack at the same time, a pressure dash will occur, and players will have to mash the square button in order to win that minigame. Now, what makes Evil Zone fun? While this is a simplistic game in nature, it has a good mix of offensive and defensive mechanics that forces both players to think on the fly in many occasions. The game, at least for us, feels very neutral and heavy with actual punishment for losing it. You can't just hang back firing off projectiles all match because there's an answer for that style of play, while inversely, you can't just carelessly rush into your opponents either. And once in range, there's plenty to do with melee, such as strike throwing to try to open up your opponent, while keeping in mind their evasive options and trying to keep yourself safe. There's always something happening is the point we're trying to make. This in combination with the fast-paced nature of the game, along with the easy to pick up controls, make for a very satisfying game to play, once the mechanics are understood. We were really shocked by just how solid Evil Zone actually is. We really enjoyed the premise of each character being their own protagonists. They committed to this bit just enough that the generic personalities, bad voice acting, and somewhat derivative designs can all be looked past, since the point was to live from 80s and 90s anime tropes, and to be fair, they chose some good ones. The fighting system is fast, unique, responsive, and very intuitive. Attacks might take a while to start up and animations might be a little long in the tooth at times, but they're all well animated and they're satisfying to land. On the other hand, the fighting system is one of the game's biggest weak points, despite our enjoyment of it. It's a little too simplistic for its own good and needed a little more meat on those bones. Overall, Evil Zone tried to be an exciting and cinematic fighting game that harnesses the raw power of anime while being easy enough for anyone to pick up and play. We think it succeeded in this mission as a whole, but not without taking some hits, because they happen to make a game that's even simpler than Smash Brothers, which is impressive if that was what they aimed for, but I don't think that was the case. It's not the deepest game, but it can be fun with friends who are interested in fighting games and are open-minded enough to give it a try. We'll see you next time on The Runback.
I'll kill you, Ihaduka. That's why I am Kakarine. I love you, Leah. That's why I am Kakarine. Fantastic Abilities Episode 10 is I Am an Idiot. I wonder how long this fantasy thing is going to continue.